that we want to set up is, let's look at our homework. I want to do a walkthrough of the homework so that we can do it together. All right, so essentially you're going to create a page called your last name _ functions. We're going to create a function that takes a comma separated string in an array and makes an associative array out of each string. We're going to create a function that puts each one of those into an array of associative arrays. And we're going to create a function that takes the array and displays it in HTML. And if you want the advanced, you can use an include to create a page header that can be used on multiple pages. You're going to turn in the code in the screenshot of it working. Here is the code to use as we go. All right. So let me go over to our code. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to make a new element here. I'll call it Walsh functions.php. I'm going to do my code here, okay? And then I'm going to take what I just did and make them into comments. I think we've talked about comments, but if we haven't, basically a comment is you put // in front of words, and these now become like notes to you. That will not get executed by PHP. So it's // and //. Okay. So the reason I did that is now I have some instructions that I can use to get through this, and then I can use this to code against. So we don't need that one. Okay, create a function that takes a comma separated string. Oh, one more thing about the comma separated string is it lives right here. So let's copy and paste that into our document or into our file. I'm going to paste that right here. Okay, and so I have some notes here. That's name, focus, street address, city, zip, and curator. So you can see here in the code all the different people. Okay. Now, let's start here with create a function that takes a comma separated string in an array and makes an associative array out of it. All right, so the first thing we need to think about is let's just get through let's get through this array and get each one of these, okay? So what should we do? So I'm going to, again, do some words first as I go to solve this problem. Sorry, I'm trying to keep all my notes. I'm on a different computer. So, how can I do this? All right, first, let's break this problem down. Okay, so make a get each line of the array, convert the entry into values we can use in an associative array. Okay? So So it's notes to myself. So let's, first of all, how can we get each line of the array? Well, we can do a for each loop, right? So we can write something like this. We do a for each. Baltimore museums as museum. Okay. Now we have gotten each line of the array. All right, so we were able to, the value museum will of course print that value. Okay, and the interesting thing, of course, is that it's just going to be, so if we did echo museum, save this, check it out on here. You can see it there, and if we look at the page source, you can see the spacing. It looks like each element is in one, one line, so we can make a couple changes to that just to make it a little bit easier for ourselves. Echo museum dot br, save that, go over here, refresh it. Okay, so everything's on its own definite thing here. Okay, now next, I want to go ahead and I need to convert the entry into values that we can use. So I talked earlier about a little thing. I talked about the built-in elements in our that we have available to us within PHP. And so there is an array function that basically will convert text with commas into an array. So it's called explode, which is really fun. So I'm going to type explode and do parentheses. Now what should I do? Okay, the separator in our case is going to be a comma. So again, this is a function built into PHP. And then what string am I using? I'm doing museum. And I have no limit, and I'm not going to put anything in there. And I put a semicolon. And now what I'm going to do, for fun, is I'm actually going to do print R. This is just me checking to make sure everything looks correct. A little sanity check. Save. Go to my thing here. Refresh. Okay. So we've got... I'm going to get rid of this echo real quick. Save that. Refresh it. Okay, look, we have American Visionary Art Museum, then Outsider Visionary Art, 800 Key Highway, Baltimore, Dr. Lillian Halsey. So it looks like 0 is the name, 1 is the outside, is the type, 2 is the street address, 3 is the city, 4 is the zip, 5 is the curator. Okay, and I have a bunch of those because that's what happened. Is I actually, I just exploded them. I have nothing set right now, so I need to figure that out. So let's get rid of this, and now I'm also just going to move my notes up because it seems like I need to put this into the for each. Okay, so maybe we could create my array equals, or maybe we call it museum info equals explode museum. So now museum info is actually is going to be an array. All right, now there's a couple ways I could handle this, but I want to actually create a function that does this. So let's create a function, and we might even make it easier for us than we thought we were going to. The function could be function. I'm going to call this make associated array, and then I'm going to take an array and what do I do with it? Well, I know based off of the code that it's name, focus, street address, city, zip, curator, and I just showed you that that is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the array that gets sent. Wait, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. Okay, so let's try that out. And so I can set an associated, if you guys remember what an associative array is, it is going to be the kind of array that has keys and values. So I could say something to the effect of a sock array equals, all right, so in our case, we're going to take array, and then we're going to do our first key value pair, which is going to be name. Then we do that cool equals greater than in order to get like an arrow. And then we put a value in there. In our case, it's going to be my array 0. And we're going to do this over and over again. So this becomes 1. This goes from name to focus. We'll call that focus, comma, paste. This is going to be 2. And this one becomes street. I just call it address. And then we'll do the next one, which is going to be, according to this, the city. And I am working in a little bit backwards motion, I know that. City, comma. Next one is zip. Array 4. And then finally, curator. Array 5. Okay. Semicolon. So my ASOC array is equal to this array, and so what we're going to do is we're going to return that value. Instead of museum info equals explode museum, I'm now going to put a new line. I'm going to call make associated array museum info. All right, and then it's going to see it needs to return an array. So I'm going to say museum array equals make associative array museum info. Okay, and then if this works correctly, I should be able to print R museum array. So there's a lot of things going on here. We have one array called Baltimore Museums. We then do a loop through each element of this, and we get each there's only one thing in here. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Of those 5, what I do then is I explode them so they turn them into arrays. So it's item 1, item 0, item 1, item 2, etc., etc. And then what I do is I send it to a function called makeAssociatedArray, which is the museum info, and I send it back, and let's see how it works. Name, focus, address. So you can see it. Now let's do a... This is what it sends back, which is actually really, really useful. Like, now it's working. I now have associative arrays. There's some things that can make this a little better as a programmer. Like, for instance, why am I exploding it here? Why don't I just run it somewhere else? So maybe instead of exploding it here, I might take this, Control X, move this here, call this my array, right? Actually, it's this one right here. And then change this from my array to my string. And then we're going to explode what? My string. And then it all should work. Now, why would I do this? I would do this because it just takes almost all of the processing power out. And if I save this, so now I have just this function. If I take this and refresh, it should look exactly the same, which it does. Okay, great. It just makes a little bit more sense because now I'm defining a museum array based off of all the other stuff. Okay, so now what's the next part? Create a function that takes the array and displays it. That's not where I want. Create a function and that puts, geez, sorry guys, that puts that into an array of associative arrays. I actually put my code in the wrong place. So let's create that function now. This is the make associated array. This is the exploding. This actually is this code, right? This is this note. And this is this note. Okay. We are going to do a function well, actually, we don't even need to do it as a function. Check this out. Instead of doing it as a function, it's probably just going to be easiest for me to think about pushing it onto the array. Or not pushing it. What do we call that? Yeah, it's push. Okay, because it pops it at the end of the array. To do that, I need an array of museum entries. So what I could do is I could say museum entries. Actually, it's push. Push, array push, array underscore push my which array. So we have a new array called museum we have a new array, and we're going to call it museums. And then what's our value we're pushing on it? It is going to be museum array, because that's just like one museum's info. Museums isn't currently defined, so it's probably going to be really good value to say museum array equals empty array. All right. And then what we can do after each one is do a print r museum array. Save that. And I broke because I have it reversed. It is you put the name of the array that you're pushing to first, and then you put its value. Museum array, museum. That is so weird. Okay. So it's museum. Museum array is museum. And it's museums array. And we do museum array. So it's, I made it plural, singular. So it should work. This should be the thing we need. Our page source doesn't look any different, does it? Print museums array, that's why. Oh boy, guys. There it goes. So it starts off once, 0, array, and it has an array, an associative array in the array. Next one, it has 0, 1, and it has 2 associative arrays in the one array. All the way down till we get to this one. Okay, great. That's what we want. Okay, so then the final assignment is create a function that takes that array and displays it in HTML. Okay. Function display museums. We're going to take an input of the museums. That's going to be an array. And then what do we do? Well, we do one more for each loop. For each. Parentheses. Then we do museums as I just looked it up here. I'm sorry. For each museum as museum, right? So it's the big one, and then we do the small one. So we'll do museum. All right, and then what do? We could say something like for each one, we could echo H1. We could do museum name. And then let's just test this to make sure that works. Why are you yelling at me about this? Because it's not. All right, so we have to do great. So let's try this. In our code, after we've done the for each loop, we need to run our function called display museums. And then which museums do we display? We display museum array. We don't display museum array, we display museums array. Okay? And then we run it. And there's that. So we have at least our names, and we have all this junk because we left it over here with this print. Just have to remove it once. Save it. Run it again. There we go. I will explain why this is an important skill to be able to do in just a second. Okay, so the final stuff we'll do is we'll just go through and we'll do all these echoes. And we could do echo P dot museum address dot comma dot museum state dot space dot museum zip we defined earlier, right? And then we could do a dot break /n to make it look good in human form all the way around. And then perhaps we would do echo and then we could do a strong dot focus dot quote slash strong /n /br semicolon, and then finally echo the museum curator. Or even better, echo contact dot curator dot quote /p, and there we have it. Okay, save that. Let's test it. And there we have it. We basically pulled data from a database in the same kind of format that we might get. We then, created a special kind of array. And the way we do that is with this array push, that's a built-in function. And then we call display museums, and it runs. Now all these functions, they're down here. They're not doing anything here. I could actually cut them and move them up to the top. Because it doesn't matter where the function is as long as the function exists. Sorry, I'm just trying to clean it up so it looks a little nicer. As long as the function exists in the program, within the script. So now if I run it with everything that is a function up top, if I were to run it, it works the exact same because it doesn't matter based off of the order. So this is how you do your homework. It may have been jumpy because I'm gonna have to edit some of this. There's a long video, but we can talk more about it in class.